Other trees.
Okay, there's one.
Hey, Rodney.
Hey, guys.
There it
Main
is.
Street.
On the green. Norton, there's that. Does Facebook come up? Well, let's see. Yep, it did. Okay, we're good to go. Let me hit record down here and we'll get going. Okay, here we go. Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Roger Paul. I think I'm still me today. It's hard to tell. Tonight, we're going to continue our study in the Urantia Book on paper 152. We're in section 3, paragraph 1. That's paper 7, or page 1702 in the original book. And it's the part 2, 152, of the events leading up to the Capernaum crisis. Okay, and let y'all know Gary's not going to be with us tonight. He sent me an email. He can't make it, he said.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Let me approve my otter. There you go. All right, let's start out. I'll start reading, I guess. The king-making episode. And by the way, I believe this is what they considered the Capernaum crisis. I think last time I said something about something else being it, but I think they consider this as the crisis.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I was misquoted myself, and I knew it was wrong, but I said it anyway.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
You're only
Okay.
human.
I was going to say something, but
Yeah. I am only human. Are y'all sure about that? Okay, here we go. The king-making episode, feeding of the 5,000 by supernatural energy, was another of those cases where human pity plus creative power equaled that which happened. In other words, that was Jesus that had creative pity for these folks, had pity for these folks. Now that the multitude kept tripping over my tongue, had been fed to the full, and since Jesus' fame was then and there augmented by this stupendous wonder, the project to seize the master and to proclaim him, oh gosh, dear, my eyes just went.
Want me to read it?
Tell you what, let's let Rodney take it from there and we'll
Okay.
come back around. Would you mind, Rodney?
there's no problem.
I've been working at the computer all day doing shorts from my book, and eyes just went fuzzy.
I understand.
Okay.
So the feeding of the 5,000 by supernatural energy was another of those cases where human pity plus creative power equal that which happened. Now that the multitude had been fed to the full, and since Jesus' fame was then and there augmented by his stupendous wonder, the project to seize the master and proclaim him king required no further personal direction. The idea seemed to spread through the crowd like a contagion. The reaction of the multitude to this sudden and spectacular supplying of their physical needs was profound and overwhelming. For a long time, the Jews had been taught that the Messiah, the son of David, when he should come, would cause the land again to flow with milk and honey, and that the bread of life would be bestowed upon them as manna from heaven was supposed to have been fallen upon their forefathers in the wilderness. And was not all this expectation now fulfilled right before their eyes? When this hungry, undernourished multitude had finished gorging itself with the wonder food, there was but one unanimous reaction: Here is our King. The wonder-working deliverer of Israel had come. In the eyes of these simple-minded people, the power to feed carried with it the right to rule. No wonder, then, that the multitude, when it had finished feasting, rose as one man and shouted, "Make him king!"
Okay, so you feed somebody and they want to make you king, right? That's what it boiled down to. But this is the fulfillment of the prophecy, right? That the new Messiah would feed the people just like they had in the wilderness. Okay, let's go on. Lech, would you take the next one? That way we'll go back around like we normally do.
Okay. This mighty shout enthused Peter and those of the apostles who still retained the hope of seeing Jesus assert his right to rule. But these false hopes were not to live for long. This mighty shout of the multitude had hardly ceased to reverberate from the nearby rocks when Jesus stepped upon a huge stone and, lifting up his right hand to command their attention, said, "My children, you mean well, but you are short-sighted and material-minded." There was a brief pause. This stalwart Galilean was there majestically posed in the enchanting glow of that eastern twilight. Every inch he looked a king as he continued to speak to this breathless multitude. "You would make me king, not because your souls have been lighted with the great truth, but because your stomachs have been filled with bread. How many times have I told you that my kingdom is not of this world? This kingdom of heaven, which we proclaim, is a spiritual brotherhood, and no man rules over it seated upon a material throne. My Father in heaven is the all-wise and the all-powerful ruler over this spiritual brotherhood of the sons of God on earth. Have I so failed in revealing to you the Father of spirits that you would make a king of his Son in the flesh? Now all of you go hence to your own homes. If you must have a king, let the Father of lights be enthroned in the heart of each of you as the Spirit ruler of all things."
Okay, now what's so important in this paragraph that Jesus talks about? The fact that notice here it says no material king should be over this planet, basically, right? No one. And so that the kingdom that he brings is a spiritual kingdom. It's a spiritual brotherhood, and that's why it's the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man. And he makes this point all over again. He does not want to be king. He does not want to rule this world. He don't want to be throned as a kingdom on this world at all. Number one, if he do that, what would he be at odds with immediately?
God.
The
With
Romans,
Oh,
right?
and with Herod.
And with Herod, they'd come down on him like nobody's business if he did that,
course. And
right?
he explains the kingdom of heaven is the spiritual brotherhood of
That's
man.
right. Yeah. And they misunderstood that. All this kingdom of heaven stuff, he kept stressing is a spiritual kingdom, not a physical kingdom on earth. And that's still the case right now, right? All right, I'll take the next one. It's a little bit bigger. These words of Jesus sent the multitude away, stunned and disheartened. Many who had believed in him turned back and followed him no more from that day. The apostles were speechless. They stood in silence, gathered about the 12 baskets of fragments of food. Only the chore boy, the Mark lad, spoke, and he refused to be our king. Jesus, before going off to be alone in the hills, turned to Andrew and said, "Take your brethren back to Zebedee's house and pray with them, especially your brother Simon Peter," because he knew he would be the most disappointed about all this.
And it
Right?
sounds just like a kid to say, And he refused to be our king.
And he refused to be our
But
king.
what I don't understand is that Christ has always repeated, my kingdom is in heaven. It's not of this earth. So it's like they never got it.
Never sunk in, right? When I made this first chapter of this book I wrote, and I've been doing these short videos on it. One of the things they talk about is the normal mind, the subnormal mind, the normal mind, and the supernormal mind. Okay. And really, many of these people back during this period were subnormal. In other words, because of their DNA inheritance from Adam and Eve, their minds had not developed where they could comprehend or accept spiritual concepts very easily.
Hmm.
Okay.
And another thing, Roger, the Spirit of truth has not been poured out. Many times I've spoken to my mother about this, that we have no idea what it was like back then
We don't.
because the Spirit of truth was not here.
Yeah, and the fact that the Spirit of truth has been poured out on everybody now, and the Holy Spirit that's already been here. But the Spirit of truth is really, if you think about it, our teacher and interpreter.
And
Okay.
our guide,
And our
our
guide.
comforter.
Yeah, so they didn't have that, did they?
No.
Okay, so they're kind of flailing around lost during that period of time. And of course, that changed after Jesus poured out the Spirit of truth. Okay, do you want to take the next one? Let me hit.
4. Simon Peter's night vision. The apostles, without their masters, sent out off by themselves, entered the boat and in silence began to row towards Bethsaida on the western shore of the lake. None of the 12 was so crushed and downcast as Simon Peter. Hardly a word was spoken. They were all thinking of the Master alone in the hills. Had he forsaken them? He had never before sent them all away and refused to go with them. What could all this mean?
You're muted.
Sorry, Simon. Notice Simon Peter's the most upset about it and the most despondent. All right, okay, so they rolled out in the boat, right? This is an important story. All right, so let's go on. Pam, would you take the next one?
Uh-huh. Darkness descended upon them, for there had arisen a strong and contrary wind, which made progress almost impossible. As the hours of darkness and hard rowing passed, Peter grew weary and fell into a deep sleep of exhaustion. Andrew and James put him to rest on the cushioned seat in the stern of the boat, while the other apostles toiled against the wind and the waves. Peter dreamed a dream. He saw a vision of Jesus coming to them, walking on the sea. When the master seemed to walk on by the boat, Peter cried out, "Save us, Master, save us." And those who were in the rear of the boat heard him say some of these words. As this apparition of the night season continued in Peter's mind, he dreamed that he heard Jesus say, "Be of good cheer. It is I. Be not afraid." This was like the balm of Gilead's to Peter's disturbed soul. It soothed his troubled spirit, so that in his dream he cried out to the Master, "Lord, if it really is you, bid me come and walk with you on the water." And when Peter started to walk upon the water, the boisterous waves frightened him, and as he was about to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." And many of the 12 heard him utter this cry. Then Peter dreamed that Jesus came to the rescue, and stretching forth his hand, took hold and lifting him up, saying, "O you of little faith, wherefore did you doubt?"
Yeah.
Now, remember in the Bible, this story, this dream came to be reality. Remember that?
Well,
Okay, so this is the story about Peter trying to walk on the water with Jesus, who was walking on the water, which Jesus never did.
I
right?
think Dr. Luke is the only one who mentioned it.
That's right. All right. Let's see here. Rodney, would you take the next one, please?
Yes. In connection with the latter part of his dream, Peter arose from the seat, whereupon he slept, and actually stepped overboard and into the water. And he awakened from his dream as Andrew, James, and John reached down and pulled him out of the sea.
Okay, so he
sleepwalking.
actually, in his sleep, walked over the side of the boat, and the other apostles had to save him, didn't they? Keep him from drowning.
Seems so real.
So, yeah, it became so real. So, in Peter's mind, this really all happened, right?
Of course.
All right. Again, here it is. Letch, would you take the next one?
Okay. To Peter, this experience was always real. He sincerely believed that Jesus came to them that night. He only partially convinced John Mark, which explains why Mark left a portion of the story out of his narrative. Luke, the physician who made careful search into these matters, concluded that the episode was a vision of Peter's and therefore refused to give place to this story in the preparation of his narrative.
So it
So
must
he,
have been Matthew and John that entered it.
yeah, into John Mark's narrative, right? Because John Mark got his narrative by Peter, telling him the stories, right?
Yeah.
As he got older. All right. Okay, back in Bethsaida, Thursday morning after daylight, they anchored their boat offshore near Zebedee's house and sought sleep until about noontime. Andrew was first up, and going for a walk by the sea, found Jesus in company with their chore boy sitting on the stone by the water's edge. Who was their chore boy?
Mark?
John Mark, that's right. Notwithstanding that, many of the multitude and the young evangelists searched all night and much of the next day about the eastern hills for Jesus. Shortly after midnight, he and the Mark lad had started to walk around the lake and across the river back to Bethsaida. So they actually walked around the thing back, just the two of them. All right. Diane.
Of the 5,000 who were miraculously fed, and who, when their stomachs were full and their hearts empty, would have made him king, only about 500 persisted in following him and following after him. But before these received word that he was back in Bethsaida, Jesus asked Andrew to assemble the 12 apostles and their associates, including the women, saying, I desire to speak with them. And when all were ready, Jesus said,
You're muted.
Notice only about 10% of all those people that were fed
Yeah.
still believed in him. All right. And that's probably the percentage we'll have at trying to convince people about the gospel. All right, Pam, would you take the next one?
Yeah. How long shall I bear with you? Are you all slow of spiritual comprehension and deficient in living faith? All these months have I taught you on the truths of the kingdom, and yet are you dominated by material motives instead of spiritual considerations? Have you not even read in the scriptures where Moses exhorted the unbelieving children of Israel, saying, Fear not, stand still, and see the salvation of the Lord? Said the singer, put your trust in the Lord, be patient, wait upon the Lord, and be of good courage. He shall strengthen your heart. Cast your burden on the Lord, and he shall sustain you. Trust him at all times and pour out your heart to him, for God is your refuge. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. It is better to trust the Lord than to put confidence in human princes.
Okay, and what's this all boiled down to? Having spiritual faith, not determining, not putting your faith in the material world. Okay. So, and we need to do that even today. We still want to make everything in our life material. If you think about it, we're more worried about what we're going to eat, where we're going to sleep, what clothes we're going to wear, all these other things besides spiritual values, more than we are by trusting in God. These things that we need shall be provided to us. And that's a lesson even I struggle with every single day. It's hard to have faith, that's for sure. Nothing is easy in life, is it?
No, it isn't.
Okay, Rodney, would you take the next one, please?
Yes. And now do you all see that the working of miracles and the performance of material wonders will not win souls for the spiritual kingdom? We fed the multitude, but it did not lead them to hunger for the bread of life, neither to thirst for the waters of spiritual righteousness. When their hunger was satisfied, they sought not entrance into the kingdom of heaven, but rather sought to proclaim the Son of Man King, after the manner of the kings of this world, only that they might continue to eat bread without having to toil therefor. And all this, in which many of you did more or less participate, does nothing to reveal the Heavenly Father or to advance his kingdom on earth. Have we not sufficient enemies among the religious leaders of the land without doing that which is likely to estrange also the civil rulers? I pray that the Father will anoint your eyes, that you may see, and open your ears, that you may hear, to the end that you may have full faith in the gospel which I have taught you.
And what's he talking about here? He wants the Father to anoint us with spiritual eyes so we can see the spiritual concepts and hear with our ears the spiritual laws of God, not the material things in the world. Okay? And that is very hard for us to do. That's still hard for us to do today. Lech, would you take the next one, please?
Okay. Jesus then announced that he wished to withdraw for a few days of rest with his apostles before they made ready to go up to Jerusalem for the Passover. And he forbade any of the disciples or the multitude to follow him. Accordingly, they went by boat to the region of Gennesaret for 2 or 3 days of rest and sleep. Jesus was preparing for a great crisis of his life on earth, and he therefore spent much time in communion with the Father in heaven.
Okay, and I have a picture of this area of Gennesaret, which I want to show y'all. And let me change my share here. There it is. See if this will come up. See that? Can y'all see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
That's
this is,
pretty.
this is an actual
Pretty
picture,
water.
of that area. And you'll notice here, this says, it says on the Sea of Tiberias of Gennesaret.
Gennesaret.
Sorry.
Yeah. Gennesaret. Right? Did I say that right, y'all?
I think so.
Okay. All right, let me stop sharing and go back here to where we were. I think this is the right one. All right. We're back. Let me change this back over here so I can hear y'all. All right. So I'm up again. Okay, the news of the feeding of the 5,000 and the attempt to make Jesus king aroused widespread curiosity and stirred up the fears of both the religious leaders and the civil rulers throughout all Galilee and Judea. While this great miracle did nothing to further the gospel of the kingdom in the souls of material-minded and half-hearted believers, it did serve the purpose of bringing to a head the miracle-seeking and king-craving provic
Proclivity.
proclivities of Jesus' immediate family and the apostles and close disciples. This spectacular episode brought an end to the early era of teaching and training and healing, thereby preparing the way for the inauguration of the last year of proclaiming the high-end, more spiritual phases of the new gospel of the kingdom. The divine sonship, spiritual liberty, and eternal salvation. So this was the start of the last year. Remember, Jesus taught for 4 years, 2 months and something, right? So this was nearing the last year.
So I think it's letting us know that Jesus, the reason he fed the 5,000, it was because he did want the material seeking throngs to, he knew what would happen.
Yeah, he knew what would happen. He
That's
didn't
why
want him. Yeah,
it was purposeful.
yeah, he didn't want him to continue on falsely, did he?
But he also knew, because they were trying to make him king, that it would cause a problem, a
Yeah.
crisis.
A big problem with not only the Roman authorities, but the
Herod.
religious authorities too. All right, Diane.
6 at Gennesaret. While resting at the home of a wealthy believer in the I'm hard, yeah, region, Jesus held informal conferences with the 12 every afternoon. The ambassadors of the kingdom were a serious, sober, and chastened group of disillusioned men. But even after all that had happened, and as subsequent events disclosed, these 12 men were not yet fully delivered from their inbred and long cherished notions about the coming of the Jewish Messiah. Events of the receding a few weeks had moved too swiftly for these astonished fishermen to grasp their full significance. It requires time for men and women to effect radical and extensive changes in their basic and fundamental concepts of social conduct, philosophic attitudes, and religious convictions.
So even after all this happened and the experience of the feeding of the 5,000, still the 12 still held on to their concepts of the Jewish Messiah and being
Well,
king.
it's similar, like when you first find the Urantia book and you're reading through these pages and it conflicts with what you've grown up to believe.
Yeah,
There's a conflict there.
there is a conflict there, even though the stories are so similar, but some concepts in it are so opposed to one another, right? As you read through it and you realize what this is what really happened, and this is the myth about it. Okay. And so it makes it's really very upsetting to you because you've been taught this your whole life. And you think, well, this must be the way it is. In reality, it isn't. Right.
For me, it was really different because I was not happy with the way, I was raised in the Catholic Church, and from a very early time, I just questioned, what was real. So when got the book, I was totally elated and embraced, all of the information.
Breath of
Yeah.
fresh air.
Yeah, it is. It's like a breath of fresh air, and
Yeah.
truly, and as we keep producing these little short videos and stuff that I've been working on, and the truth comes out in them, I'm going to get a lot of feedback about, you're crazy. This is not the way it really is, and all that stuff. But I expect that to happen, right? Because when you first start reading the book, it's hard to accept the truth. It really is. I fought against it myself, so I know that's the case. All right, and here's the picture I showed you a while ago. I forgot it. It was in the slides here. So Same picture. It was kind of funny. I made a comment to my wife a while ago when I was looking at this picture that you see these little squares in this picture?
But your wall?
Yeah, somebody now, whoever took this picture was in a gallery somewhere because the reflection off the glass got the ones across the way from them. I'm surprised we don't see a little guy with a camera in there somewhere.
Yeah.
There he is.
Okay. Let's see here. Pam, would you take the next one?
Sure. While Jesus and the 12 were resting at Gennesaret, the multitudes dispersed, some going to their homes, others going on up to Jerusalem for the Passover. In less than 1 month's time, the enthusiastic and open followers of Jesus, who numbered more than 50,000 in Galilee alone, shrank to less than 500. Jesus desired to give his apostles such an experience with the fickleness of popular acclaim that they would not be tempted to rely on such manifestations of transient religious hysteria after he should leave them alone in the work of the kingdom, but he was only partially successful in this effort.
Okay, so notice they went to 50,000 followers down to about 500.
Yeah.
Quite a
Populace
difference.
is fickle, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
All right. You know, it's kind of like the popularity of these entertainment churches, you know, that want you to send them their money so they can get bigger and bigger.
Dude.
Kind of the same principle there. All
Well,
right.
that's what's frightening is that we still have people with small minds like that by the
It
millions.
is.
Good.
Hasn't changed.
They
Got a
still don't
long
look.
way to go.
They still don't look through the spiritual eyes, do they, Latch? At all?
Right. I mean, I knew someone with a PhD who sincerely and with full faith believed that Noah had an ark,
Yeah.
which in my way of viewing it would have had to have been the size of Manhattan.
Yeah.
And doesn't take into account all the animals in the rest of the world that they swim across the oceans to get to the ark, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did those African elephants get to
Yeah,
Boy, that'd be a real problem
the
cleaning
Middle
up
East?
after, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and the polar bears and
Polar
the
bears.
kangaroos and
right.
I know there's lots of problems with these old stories, you know. I want to stress to all you scientists out there, though, that yes, the world was covered in water 3 times. Okay. It was also covered in ice a couple times. So, you know,
Right.
all these, you know, the movement of the ice and that sort of thing, it's all true. So, but Noah's stuff, Noah did not take all the animals of the world. Sorry. You know, it's a myth. Okay. Who's up next here? I think
I am.
you are, Rodney. Yeah.
Okay, the second night of their sojourning Gennesaret, the Master again told the apostles the parable of the sower and added these words. You see, my children, the appeal to human feelings is transitory and utterly disappointing. The exclusive appeal to the intellect of man is likewise empty and barren.
Hold it right there, Rodney.
Yes.
What's he say there?
Fickle.
The exclusive appeal to the intellect, the brain of man is likewise what?
Empty and barren.
Empty and barren. That's right. Okay. I wanted to point that out. You can go on, Rodney.
It is only by making your appeal to the spirit which lives within the human mind that you can hope to achieve lasting success and accomplish those marvelous transformations of human character that are presently shown in the abundant yielding of the genuine fruits of the Spirit in the daily lives of all who are thus delivered from the darkness of doubt by the birth of the Spirit into the light of faith, the kingdom of heaven.
And what happens
a
when
long
that happens?
sentence.
Yeah, it's a run-on sentence. What happens when that happens too? There's a transformation in the personality of those who that happens to, because the thought adjuster is the leading light of that person from there on, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Let's see. Letch, would you take the next one?
Okay. Jesus taught the appeal to the emotions as a technique of arresting and focusing the intellectual attention. He designated the mind, thus aroused and quickened, as the gateway to the soul, where there resides that spiritual nature of man, which must recognize truth and respond to the spiritual appeal of the gospel in order to afford the permanent results of true character transformations.
Okay, what do you think the Baptist always has the invitation at the end of the service? Because they get the intellectual attention and they arouse the soul. They arouse things in the personality to make them want to make a move. So it's a perfect time for the invitation. So they make a decision, make that permanent decision,
Well,
right?
also, the churches first have music.
Yeah.
Everybody's on the
It's
same page.
yeah, everybody's excited and everybody, it works, right? Worked for
Yeah.
hundreds of years. All right. Jesus thus endeavored to prepare the apostles for the impending shock, the crisis of the public attitude toward him, which was only a few days distant. He explained to the 12 that the religious rulers of Jerusalem would conspire with Herod Antipas to effect their destruction. The 12 began to realize more fully, though not finally, that Jesus was not going to sit on David's throne. They saw more fully that the spiritual truth was not to be advanced by material wonders. They began to realize that the feeding of the 5,000 and the popular movement to make Jesus king was the apex of the spiritual seeking and
Miracle seeking.
miracle seeking and wonder working expectations of the people and the height of Jesus' acclaim by the populace. They vaguely discern the dimly foresaw the approaching times of spiritual sifting and cruel adversity. These 12 men were slowly awaking to the realization of the real nature of their task as ambassadors to the kingdom, and they began to gird themselves for the trying and testing ordeals of the last year of the Master's ministry on earth. It started to sink in what they were really involved with, right?
Yeah.
Remember at the Last Supper, and Jesus basically told them, this is it. You can still walk away, but if you stay with me, you're in for a hard time, right? And that's what happens when you make that final decision to follow God every time. All right, Diane.
Before they left Gennesaret, Jesus instructed them regarding the miraculous feeding of the 5,000, telling them just why he engaged in this extraordinary manifestation of creative power, and also assuring them that he did not thus yield to his sympathy for the multitude until he had ascertained that it was according to the Father's will.
Okay, so according to him, this is all part of the Father's will. But you see why this is considered the crisis
Well,
now?
not yet. It's when he's at church in the synagogue, and the crisis happens.
Okay. You don't think this was part of it? The whole building
Yeah,
up to
it's
it?
building up to it.
That's right. Okay. Just want to make sure we're on the same page. All right. 7 at Jerusalem. Pam, would you take this?
Yeah, 7 at Jerusalem. Sunday, April 3rd, Jesus, accompanied only by the 12 apostles, started from Bethsaida on the journey to Jerusalem. To avoid the multitudes and to attract as little attention as possible, they journeyed by way of Gerasa and Philadelphia. He forbade them to do any public teaching on this trip. Neither did he permit them to teach or preach while sojourning in Jerusalem. They arrived in Bethany near Jerusalem late on Wednesday evening, April 6th. For this one night they stopped at the home of Lazarus, Martha, and Mary, but the next day they separated. Jesus, with John, stayed at the home of a believer named Simon near the house of Lazarus in Bethany. Judas Iscariot and Simon Zealots stopped with friends in Jerusalem, while the rest of the apostles sojourned two and two in different homes.
All right. So they kind of broke up at that point. Rodney, would you take this one?
You got to switch it.
Yeah, you gotta.
Oh, sorry, y'all. Sorry, I switched mine down here and forgot to switch up.
Jesus entered Jerusalem only once during this Passover, and that was on the great day of the feast. Many of the Jerusalem believers were brought out by Abner to meet Jesus at Bethany. During the sojourn at Jerusalem, the 12 learned how bitter the feeling was becoming toward their master. They departed from Jerusalem, all believing that a crisis was impending.
There's the crisis again. All right. Letch, would you take this last one here?
Yes. On Sunday, April 24th, Jesus and the apostles left Jerusalem to Bethsaida, going by way of the coast cities of Joppa, Caesarea, and Ptolemais. Thence overland they went by Ramah and Chorazin to Bethsaida, arriving on Friday, April 29th. Immediately on reaching home, Jesus dispatched Andrew to ask of the ruler of the synagogue permission to speak the next day, that being the Sabbath, at the afternoon service. And Jesus well knew that that would be the last time he would ever be permitted to speak in the Capernaum synagogue.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is his last opportunity to speak in the synagogue during his ministry. Okay. And then the next time we're going to go into the actual crisis at Capernaum, right? Which was during his speaking at the synagogue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We still have 20 minutes.
Yeah, I thought I'd let you give us a dissertation on the crisis.
I'll let Letch do that.
Actually, Rodney hasn't said the prayer for a long time.
He hadn't. Okay, Rodney, it's your turn tonight.
Prayer of acceptance. I believe that God is my paradise Father, and that only by faith am I saved. No sacrifice is necessary. By the same faith, I became a child of God, and know that all men and women are my brothers and sisters. We know the Son of God, the sovereign of our universe of Nebadon, is Christ, Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. By allowing the will of God to become my will, I will someday stand in the presence of the Paradise Father. In the name of Christ, Michael, Jesus of Nazareth, Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Okay, and I need to do a little explanation here because Rodney brought something up that he's right, and I don't want people to get the wrong idea again.
What's that?
The crisis they're talking about. Well, the reason I wanted to say the crisis started at the feeding of the 5,000 is
Correct.
because, it started at the feeding of the 5,000 because this is the point in which Jesus's followers, the non-followers of the spiritual message, fell apart, right?
Well,
And
they
so
wanted to make him king.
they wanted to make him king. And since he didn't take that opportunity and do that, they were all disappointed. So what this led up to was him speaking in the synagogue at Capernaum.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I was talking about. So I wanted to clarify that. I didn't want you to think that I thought Rodney was wrong, because he wasn't. Okay.
Roger, I wanted to ask you a question. So,
Yes.
Christ Michael, are all the Michaels of all the different universes Christ Michael?
No, they're only considered. Michael is the only one considered Christ Michael because of the crucifixion.
I see.
Yeah, that's why they call him Christ Michael. None of the other creator sons have ever been crucified.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also, Christ it means the word to be anointed.
yes. Yeah. He
Anointed.
was considered the anointed one, and he died on a cross. Okay. So, it has to do with how the universe looks at how we treated our creator son.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So him having that experience that no other creator son has had, that makes him special. And so he is what we consider the crucified Christ. Okay. And you can't have Christ without the crucified. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you look at it, you could say he was the crucified anointed.
Hmm.
Does that
Mhm.
make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So that, but no other, they don't consider any of the other creator sons as Christ. They do call him Michael, though, but they're not the same. They're of the order of Michael. It's kind of like a lot like how the archangel of Michael is called Michael the archangel, which is incorrect. It should be the archangel of Michael.
Oh,
Okay.
Hmm.
So, and that's an interpretation thing from, all the way back to the Old Testament. All right. But it should be called the Archangel of Michael, should be called the Archangel of Michael, and should not be called Michael the Archangel,
Correct.
mhm.
because there is no Michael the Archangel. It's the Archangel of Michael. In other words, the Archangel that's assigned to Michael permanently. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's a big difference. Okay, so when you see pictures around and, old paintings and things like that, they always have the Michael the Archangel, and they always have him dressed up as a military type guy with a sword and, shields and all this other stuff. And in
Yeah.
reality, the
Warrior.
Archangel of Michael is a feminine being.
Oh, wow.
So they got the whole wrong sex attached to him.
Well, and also, nobody generally thinks of Christ as being Michael.
No, they don't.
So
Right.
that's why they've pinpointed the Archangel Michael.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And so when I make these videos and I put this out there, I know people think, what the heck is he? Is he crazy? He's talking about Michael and Jesus being the same being, and they are, right? So I'm not talking about Michael an archangel. I'm talking about Michael, the creator son. Okay. So
But all the people that listen to and look at your videos, they have access to the internet where they could really read the whole book.
they can.
Right.
They can read it on our website.
Mhm.
Actually, I want to show y'all something too that I did this week. Y'all want to hang out for a second here?
Yeah.
Sure.
Let me stop the share and then go over here and go back to our web page and share it. I want to show y'all something that I put on this week. I forgot to do. Here it is. All right. When I put my book out on the adjuster, you're going to notice that I go down the page here. It's got our videos for the last 2 weeks, and then I got the video on the mansion world because that's what people ask about the most. All right, and then I've got my books that I've put out. Okay, and there's the first one. There's the second one, which is a redo of the first one. The second one actually has the indexes. It's got a lot of great information. That book is worth buying just for the index in it. All right. And then of course the book on Jesus, who, what, when, and where. And this is what I added when I put my book out on the thought adjuster, I forgot to put it on the page.
Be darned.
So it's out there and you can click on it. It'll take you out to Amazon where you can buy the paperback and the hardback and the Kindle version, all three. So it's on our website now. Wanted to show you all that. Now, right underneath this, as soon as I get the copyright back for the book of the angel on the angels, I will put it out here too. Okay.
Cool.
So that's where y'all can find it if you're curious about it. Okay.
Good.
Good deal.
Good deal. All right, y'all. Well, I think we're done for the night. We ended about 10 minutes early, but that's okay. Unless y'all have any other questions you want answered. Short answers.
I had one earlier and I didn't want to change the focus of thought, so now I've completely forgotten what it is because it was something way different.
Oh, okay.
So if I think about it, I'll write it down and,
Yeah, bring it back up again. That's fine. I'm sure there's other people out there that have the same questions, right?
I had something to say. I don't know if I'm correct in my thinking, but I'm thinking that Christ had to do these miracles out of a sense of compassion, and he would have preferred not to have done them. Am I correct in that?
You're correct in that. You're totally correct in that, Letch, because normally Christ would have thought this would have been an interference in the normal progression of a human being in their life. Okay. And that's the last thing he wanted to do. They don't, what people don't understand, and I've learned this in great detail doing the book on the angels. They are not there to make changes in our life to influence us in one way or another. They're there to put obstacles in our path so we grow spiritually. They don't want to make us to make one decision or another. They don't want to interfere with free will, and that's exactly what Jesus was trying not to do, is to interfere with free will. Okay, because the final decision of survival is up to each individual, and they have to make it on their own. And none of the celestial beings are trying to influence you one way or another. They put the information out there, and it's up to you and your own spiritual life to make those decisions. It's a free will decisions, and those free will decisions are sacred. They will not interfere with that in any shape, form, or fashion.
I remembered what I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
So I thought at one point I heard you say that when you're on the mansion worlds and you're not progressing or something, can you come back to Earth and do it over again?
No, never. Never. That does not happen. There is no such thing as reincarnation. Nothing. You never go back to being a human again. The exception of that is if you get to the system capital and they ask for volunteers like they did the Caligasha 100. Those were all human beings that went through the process on their planets. 2 of them were actually from our planet. Okay, but they went through the whole process, got to the mansion worlds, and had not yet fused with their adjuster. So they sent out for volunteers for the mission to come to a planet and bring the barbarians up to a civilized society. And 100 beings volunteered for that, and they went back. They were already humans at one time, but they went back to a different planet, which was ours. You follow me?
Yeah.
That'd be an interesting assignment.
It would be, because it's going to be a very, very long assignment. Of course, when you get to the mansion worlds, time doesn't matter, right? So those Caligastia 100 were humans at one point, but they did not go back to their original planet. They
Oh.
came to Earth or Urantia as a volunteer.
And I have a question too,
Yeah.
actually. Had our planetary prince not joined Satan and Lucifer in rebellion, how long would they have served? The 100.
The Caligastia 100,
How long?
probably, yeah, up to the time of Adam and Eve.
Okay.
They would have been relieved of duty at the time of Adam and Eve, because Adam and Eve brings in a whole new celestial administration for the planet.
Okay, cool.
And this is important stuff, because the Caligastia 40 that stayed loyal to Michael were removed shortly after the tree of life was taken out of the garden. I
Yeah,
mean, out of Dalmatia is what I meant.
they couldn't have survived.
They couldn't have survived. So they were taken back to the system capital. The 60 were left, because the 60, in essence, became what? Human. Totally human. They weren't encircuited any longer, but they lived a long, long time. But since they didn't have the tree of life, they started to degenerate over time like everybody else. Now, again, their children, when they mix with humans, became the Nephilim and the giants, right?
Hmm.
Okay, so that's where they came from. But the 40 that were loyal were taken away. The only two that were not taken away was the staff of Van and Abaddon, who was Van's assistant, and they stayed on the planet until Adam and Eve came.
Wow.
Okay. And then they were free to be released to go back to Jerusalem at that point. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's how things happened. See, little details like that become foggy and you forget them over time. And that's why it's a good idea every now and then to bring them up and refresh them in your mind, because there's just so much in this book. It's just hard to keep it in our little pea brains, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that includes me. I make mistakes on it too.
No way.
Yeah. No way. Believe it or not, I do. I've probably only read it about 100 times, so you'd think I'd have it by now, but maybe not. All right, y'all. Listen, it's 6:56. We ended up filling out that 20 minutes. So everyone
Thank you, Roger.
home that listens to the videos, thank you for coming. Remember to go out and like the video and subscribe and all that stuff on X and YouTube and Facebook and whatever. It's on LinkedIn now, most of our videos. And I'm still debating on whether to go out to Twitter. I have this thing about Twitter, so I don't know if I'll be doing that or not. So, okay, y'all. Thank you for coming.
Love
Love you
y'all.
guys.
Thank you.
See you
So much.
Tuesday.
See you Tuesday. Okay.
Good
All
night.
right. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Stop recording here.